Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Allison. Welcome to my channel, Ancient Oak Psychic Arts. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Lynn Monèt, known as Queen of the Fairies. And we are so lucky to have her with us today. She is going to go ahead and describe elementals and fairies. And I know you guys are all excited about this. I know I get messages all the time. Talk more about this realm and let us know more in-depth information. So, who better than to speak about it than Lynn Monèt? Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you. I feel like I should kiss myself. Queen of the fairies. Actually, they did give me a crown and a necklace. Yeah, I'm Lynn Monèt. I'm the international author of the book series Omnipresent, which will be completing with 5 books. I now have 3 books out. Fourth one is coming. Also, Colors of Heaven, Beginnings Never End, and The Gap. I'm currently the host of the Ground Zero Plus Lynn Monèt Show. You can find me there on primetime Sunday, new content, and also replays on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can get a subscription if you want and watch all of the things that they have in the archives. I'm currently streaming on Gaia on Beyond Belief with George Norrie, and I've been a frequent guest on Coast to Coast and hundreds of podcasts and radio shows throughout the entire world. So, yeah, I have a new book that I'm writing right now that I'm calling, it's part of the Omnipresent series. It's called Omnipresent Gnome Place Like Home. The book is finished. It is in editing, which I might send you a copy of it to,
Good, great.
yeah. And I'm currently writing the follow-up to that, which is You Don't Gnome Me, which talks about some things. But the Omnipresent Gnome Place Like Home book starts out with talking about how I obtained a piece of property that, unbeknownst to me, had elementals on it. It was my sister's property, how I came about obtaining that, how I came about determining that elementals and fae were on it. And I knew nothing about elementals and fae. I've always done the paranormal thing. And of course, paranormal is a blanketed term for both the dark side, and there's also a light side that people often don't even talk about with paranormal, which are the beautiful things like angels and, when people pass, as well as elementals and fae are on that white side as well. The people automatically assume that I'm only with the darker side because I have a few creepy books out there too. But but the thing is that I've learned so much from experiencing this, and I'm still learning, people. I don't know everything. So, you know, what I'm expressing is my opinion and what I have experienced. So other people may have experienced other things as well. And if you'd like for me, Allison, to go into that a little bit, I'll be happy to do that.
I would, and I have to say, I am seeing the elementals around you right now during this interview. I can see them, and they're all around you, and they are very, very active. So they are
They
definitely
are.
here, and they're excited to hear you talk. I can see them because you and I are both clairvoyants, and so
Mhm.
they are easy. And I have seen your crown, and I have seen your necklace when we were together in person.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so I absolutely saw that. And again, we saw the elementals around you. So that title definitely is true. And like I said, I am proud to call you my friend.
Well,
I
thank you
love
so
it.
much. Thank
Thank you.
you. And
Yeah, if you go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I'm glad we're friends too. That crown and necklace. I have to say, uh, elementals and fae were actually created at the time that the earth itself was created. They do not reincarnate, but they live a very, 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 very long time. So they're very ancient and old. And the thing about the paranormal is that most of the time, if you have a haunting, you can go in and clear it a lot of times through spiritual means, type through religious type means. But when you've got elementals, that doesn't work on them because they were here before religion, before Jesus, if that's what you believe in. I personally do. Um, and all of that. As a matter of fact, they've even told me stories about Jesus. So they've always been here as helpers for us, and the humans. There's a lot of folklore about them, but a lot of it is true. And they were sent here to assist humans. They were also here to assist animals. There are certain jobs for certain types. On the property that I have that I'm most experienced with is there are night fae, sometimes called blue flares. There is also undines, which also sometimes show up as dragonflies. There's also the mother queen who shows up as a beautiful deer. When she lays down, she looks like a deer with like branch type antlers. I have pictures of these. When she stands up, she's like a walking log. She looks like a cylinder with a head and then the antlers. And she does stand up most of the time. She's not on all fours. And she's very elegant. She comes in with the blue fae usually at nighttime and mostly to watch over them. So I'm most familiar with those types of, and also the affectionate name of Bob, who I'd be glad to share how we met Bob, because through Bob we've met all of the rest. The thing about hauntings too is a lot of times people don't have hauntings; they have fae in their house, and they assume that because they see something 3 feet or shorter in their house that it's a child. So they're like, oh, there's a boy, there's a spirit in here that's a child, and it's not, because
How do
fae,
they know the difference?
they don't. They
Yeah.
don't know the difference. And a lot of paranormal people go in trying to get this thing out and then it doesn't leave. So, and the thing about them is they don't leave. Either you leave or you make nice, because they've been here much longer than any of us have been. They remember the earth being created. They remember so many beautiful, beautiful things. And I want to say this too. They're very much misunderstood. Christianity has demonetized them in such a way that they're seen as demons. And really, they're not. They were created by God. They do believe in they call him source. They reference God as source. And I'm saying him because I know that it's a he, she, they're connected, that is them, but I'm just going to reference as him for this show. Because I'm going to be referencing Gaia as she, so the two aren't mixed up. But they very much love their creator, and they're very aware of their creator. And the thing is part of it is because when Lucifer, which is separate from Satan, people, when Lucifer was in the heavens, he was the angel of music. He was very intelligent and very much loved by God. And then of course he took things into his own hands and got kicked out. He was over the elementals and fae. So the elementals and fae kind of just followed aimlessly along, like the Hatfields and the McCoys or the Republicans and the Democrats, and they don't question anything beyond those boundaries. And they realized after that happened that that was kind of not the way to go, and they're regaining, they're trying to regain their position here on Earth. They are currently boots on the ground with us all of the time. It's just that their frequency is so high that you cannot see them unless you are gifted to see them. It's not a bad thing. But the thing is I wanted to say this, because Christianity has demonetized them and made them something scary or something bad. There is no way that these beings have emotions. They grieve loss. They have joy. They have elated happiness. And the thing is when their energy comes into the room and they're excited about something, it is an energy almost similar to the energy that comes into the room at a time that someone's passing, when the angels come in to pick them up. It's this huge energy that almost doesn't have human words to describe it. And they're so joyful that you can't help but smile in their presence when they're happy, and they're curious, and they're just wonderful, wonderful beings. Demons can't feel joy. Demons can't love enough to grieve. So with that being said, because they have the capacity to do both, they can't be demons. As a matter of fact, those emotions are repellent to the darker beings and to demons. You mentioned, love or joy in a room with a demon. They'll leave like there's a stench in the room. They won't be able to
Right.
get out of there fast enough.
Right. And they might even target someone that's very happy, and
That
feeling joy. They want to take that light away.
Yeah, yes, that's true. That's true. But if it stays in there long enough, they can't stand to stay in the room with it.
Right.
They may have to come back when the person's a little bit more quiet. So they are precious, precious beings. And at one point they were called little gods. They were referenced back in biblical times. As a matter of fact, in the 1400s, this chapter of the book, what was it called? Arma. It's Armagh, Arma. And Saint Patrick was the saint that would communicate with the elementals and fae. And that book was actually taken out of the Bible. It was one of the many books that have been taken out of the Bible to modify it for easier understanding. I mean, all of the books about powerful women, all of the books about this sort of thing, even aliens, all of that was taken out. Us connecting with other universes, all of that was taken out. But this was in a book where it talks about them and how they were placed on the earth to assist growing vegetables so that humans could eat, helping the humans with their animals, keeping them well, and keeping them from getting lost, even helping guide them home if they got outside of the fence or the realm that they were supposed to be in. That's part of their job. But humans have abused them so badly. Even the Indians, everybody talks about the Indians referencing the elementals and fae. And even the Indians betrayed them. They would literally take fae, and when the giants were on the earth also, they would take the puckwedgies and they would throw them to the giants to feed the puckwedgies to the giants so that the giants wouldn't come and eat their tribes. So they betrayed them. And then there were farmers too. As a matter of fact, Bob was telling me, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Bob in a minute, but Bob was telling me that he even had a farmer at one point that he was assisting way back eons. And the farmer would do things like say to him, do you want, because when they would assist with like helping growing vegetables or something, they hoped to receive a little bit of it kind of as their reward. They wanted a piece of baked bread from the oats that were grown, or maybe a few vegetables that they could have, just something small, nothing big and major. But the farmer would trick them and say, well, do you want what grows above the ground or below the ground? And they'd say, oh, well, I want what grows above the ground. So he'd grow potatoes. And then the next time he'd say, do you want what grows above the ground or grows below the ground? And they'd say, oh, well, I want tomatoes, and he'd grow carrots, or the other way around, or, they'd say above the ground and he would grow carrots instead of, that. So he was constantly playing games with them where they would never be able to, well, there was no yielding of crops, so there's nothing for you. They would do that and that sort of thing. And yes, they do like people food. They do enjoy. Bob's favorites are beignets and Oreos. So
Got good taste.
Yes, he does. The night they come in and they like to have a piece of bread just sat in a plate of cream for them to come and get as well. And whatever they don't eat or use, you definitely take and you throw it on the outskirts of your lot line. But how I came about, would you like me to continue about meeting Bob?
Yes, yes. I definitely want to hear about Bob.
He's charming. He is absolutely, and I can feel them in here. I can feel them lining up, touching my legs, going, ooh. Everything is a big deal to them because they haven't been welcome into a human home as much. They even ride in the car with me sometimes. So Bob will sit in the back seat with his feet shifting like windshield wipers with a shit-eating grin on his face. He loves to people watch. But anyway, I had inherited my sister's house after she passed. Prior to her passing, she was complaining about the fact that there was spiritual activity in her house that, regardless of her trying to clear it, was not leaving. It wouldn't leave. And it was menacing. Well, come to find out through two remote viewers that I had view the house, after doing a clearing, my sister had passed, my son and I came in and did a complete clearing. I use a fire component in a pan where the oxygen sucks anything into the pan that doesn't want to leave, and they have no choice but to go in there. So I used that and it still didn't work. There was still this thing in the house because my son and I were standing in the hallway upstairs. I was standing in the bathroom doorway. My son was standing in the master bedroom doorway. And out of the other third bedroom, we see this little thing that looks like one of the bankers on Harry Potter. Little blocky head, got ears that were pointy but higher up than we put them. They were higher up and kind of more like rabbit ears, but not quite that long. He actually had clothes on. The nose kind of came down over, and he walks past me, past Austin into the master bedroom. I don't say anything, and all of a sudden Austin says, "Did you just see Hogwarts go by?"
I love it.
And I said, yes. And he comes back out again and he crosses me and he goes back into the third bedroom. And then he comes back out a third time and crosses and goes back into the master bedroom. Although this time he left this ectoplasmic fog, so to speak, and there were faces kind of floating in it. Previously, I had a relative come to the house to help me sort through my sister's things because I was overwhelmed. The death was not expected, and there were no end of life directions at all. And, so I was trying to find things. So when this relative came, she was sleeping upstairs in my sister's bedroom. And one night I hear her praying and this and humming hymns. And this went on for like an hour and a half. And I'm thinking, what a strange nighttime ritual to get you to go to sleep, So right. The next morning when she woke up, I asked her, I said, did you have trouble sleeping? Did you sleep okay? And she said, no. She said, I was laying in the bed and something woke me up. And when I opened my eyes, there was a wreath of faces over my bed floating like balloons. Well, I had seen those things floating in a wreath in that ectoplasmic fog. So I assumed that whatever that thing was, that those faces were prisoners of his for his entertainment. And boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. But I assumed that. So I went downstairs and I all of a sudden I hear, I hear F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb. That's what he would call me really, really fast. And then he would call me with the B word, real elongated. So my name was F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb for the first all of those days that we were there until we finally made an amends with some things. But I went down and I'm like, you know what? Whatever that thing is, I don't want to have it in here while we're trying to clear the house out because he was angry and very, very hateful. So he had this energetic pull that was draining us, making us exhausted. Plus he put an attachment on me and I had knots tied in my hair whenever I would sleep.
I love that about the fairies.
Yeah, they would tie knots in my hair. So I contacted two people, one in Florida, one in South Carolina, and of course the house is in Louisiana. They're both remote viewers. And both of them basically told me the same thing. There was, in the third bedroom, they first said that there was a portal in the house, which there is. There's actually ley lines that cross at that point, and there's a portal. So a lot of things come in and out of there, sometimes things that we don't want. But they said that there was something in one of the bedrooms that he was coming in because it belonged to him. And that if we could figure out what that was and get it out of the house, that he would no longer really have a reason to come in. And immediately it hit me. I knew what it was. Because while I was there 2 nights before sorting papers, looking through my sister's filing cabinet, looking for her will and end-of-life directives, there were crystals on top of her filing cabinet and this rock. This rock was about as big as my hand, shaped like a heart. Excuse me. And I was picking, as I'm picking up papers and I'm throwing them away. I don't need this, don't need warranties anymore, type thing. And I saw that rock and I picked it up. I was going to throw it away because I thought, why is this ugly rock here? I mean, it was very nondescript, nothing attractive about it. I couldn't understand why she even had it in her room. Sorry. I was drinking some tea with cream and I probably shouldn't have done that because it's making me froggy. So I said to them, I said, I know exactly what it is. It's that rock, because that rock, when I picked it up, had so much energy in it that it shot up my arm and I could actually feel it burning in my mouth and my teeth. And I dropped it immediately. And I'm like, whoo, I'm not going to touch that thing again. You know,
I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let somebody else come in, or I'll get a broom and sweep it into the garbage can, but I'm not touching it. So when they said that, I knew exactly what it was. I knew that it was that rock. And I said, it's the rock. And it's in the third bedroom. And the way that they explained that he came into a room behind the kitchen, there's a stairwell there with an opening that went up to the third bedroom that also had a connection from the third bedroom closet. There was this space somehow that was there, that he was using as a portal to get in and out. So I'm like, okay, so what do we do? And of course, everybody's like, oh, you better watch out because they could be really, really nasty. And all of a sudden, I look, and here is this little thing with his feet dangling off the side of the stairs, looking through the stairs. They weren't balusters, but they were these archways that she had. And he's looking through, he's pressing his face through, and he's saying, bitch. And of course, F bomb, F bomb, F bomb. And the person on the phone actually heard him. I mean, you could hear him in the house. And he says, oh, he's calling you a da-da-da-da. And he's dropping F-bombs, saying F-bomb you, F-bomb you, F-bomb you. And he was. And he said, you need to remove the rock and give it back. Yeah. So when they did the remote viewing, they talked about a shed that was behind the house, which was in fact there, that the next day we needed to take it outside and place it in there on something to return it to Bob. So the next day comes, and of course I'm not touching it. My son's got on like cooking mitts or some kind of like thing to cover his hands. So he's carrying it out the front door, and this little thing is behind him, flinging spiritual vines around my son's legs, trying to stop him. And my son's like, man, my legs really, really itch. And I'm like, yeah, because that thing is, hitting you with these vines, trying to stop you from taking his rock.
So you'd think he would be encouraging him to take it outside.
No, he didn't understand what we were doing. He didn't want anybody touching his precious. Sure. That was his precious. And we found out why later, and it really was his precious. So Austin heads out with it. The little thing follows out behind him, still cussing under his breath and murmuring obscenities. And all of a sudden, I'm like, any of you spirits that want to cross over, Daddy's gone. I opened the front door and I'm like, come on, let's go. And I mean, herds of people were like coming out of there. A few of them still continued to linger. And then I started thinking, oh, crap. This guy's going to be pissed off when he finds out his entertainment is gone. And again, like I said, I was very, very wrong about that, because I found out later, and I'll go back to this in a minute, but I found out later that he was actually gathering souls because these souls' energy were so low at the time of their death that they weren't able to go upward, go into the higher dimensions.
And that's what I was just going to ask you. Did it feel dense, the energy in the house?
Yes.
Very dense. And not just from your sister passing, just dense and overwhelming because there were so many souls there. Wow.
Yes, exactly. So he was actually keeping them to protect them, because usually when there are spirits lingering, ghosts on our earthly plane, there's usually always something darker that tries to control them, keep them scared and that sort of thing. So he was protecting them from that. And he was actually relieved to have them crossed over, because then he didn't have to be responsible for them anymore. But going back to the rock. So Austin put the rock outside. And I'm like, so what do we do? I don't want him in the house. I can see him, so I'm just going to talk to him. And so I told him, I said, look, my sister's passed away. We're here to clean out the house. We don't want any interference. We've returned your rock. And we would like for you to stay out of the house. If you stay out of the house, each day that you stay out of the house, you'll get a reward. We've got chocolate liquor. We've got tobacco. We've got baked goods. I've got crystals. I will leave you with these things each day that you stay outside of the house. And the thing was, is you could see where he was because he was underneath the house. You could hear him mulling around when you go out on the deck, and you could literally see his ears peeking up through the floor. So it almost looked like little worms going around, because when he would walk around, you just see the tips, of his
Yeah.
ears coming through the floor. So we made that agreement. And of course, he kind of wanted to test that at first, but I told him, I said, we will be leaving after 5 dark times. We'll be leaving in the daylight after the 5th dark time, because they don't have linear time like we do. They have time is like no time over there. So he stayed outside. We took him, his chocolate liquor one night, and we took him his tobacco another night. But then there was another time where he's like peeking inside, and I'm like, so you don't get your reward. And he didn't get his reward that night. So he was extra good the night after that, because then he got both of them for being good. But the thing is that, what was I going to say? Why did I just lose my thought? He
On the 5 nights. Okay.
Okay, yes, on the 5 nights. So on that day, when it was time for us to leave, there was a leak in the bathroom upstairs, so we couldn't leave. So I had to get a plumber to come, which couldn't come until much later that night. So Austin and I left to go and get some dinner and came back, because we told him that when we leave, he can come back into the house and go all over wherever he wants. So we come into the house, and we can hear this voice coming up from the back of the house, grumbling under his breath like the Tasmanian devil, and obscenities. And I'm like, oh my God, we forgot to tell him that we're here for one extra day. So I told him, I said, look, we are here for one extra day. We've had a problem, but we are going to be leaving in the morning. So the sink got fixed. And that night, my son was loading my sister's truck, because I was going to drive it back to South Carolina. And he was loading some very heavy things in the back of that truck. So he took an item out, and all of a sudden I hear these obscenities. And I thought it was my son. So I go to open the door, and when I open the door, his face is like right there. And I'm like, what happened? I'm like, are you all right? And he's like, what? And I said, why were you stating all of those obscenities? I thought that you hurt yourself or something. He says, no, that wasn't me. I said, well, did you hear that? And he said, no. So the next morning, we get up. My son has started the truck, because he's trying to hook up the battery for my phone and things like that, so that I have a navigation. He also had started his car, because he was having trouble with the battery. He wanted to make sure it had a good charge before he left. And I'm standing out on the front porch, and my son is in the front of the truck. And I hear this F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb. And then the B word, and F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I walked over to Austin, and I said, are you all right? He said, what? And I said, why are you again, yelling out obscenities? And he says, that's not me. And then we both heard F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb coming from the back of the house where the shed was. And there's this little being standing in the doorway, because he thought that we were leaving, and that I wasn't going to leave him with the beignets and the treats that I promised that I would. So we went back there, took him his treats like we agreed, and he hid from us when we came into the room where his rock was. We actually hung a bell over it, and you could hear him pinging that bell, and it was inside of a building, so there was no wind. He loved the bell because it made sounds and music. And he comes up to me like he always does, and he'll grab the side of my leg where the seam is on the outside, like he's grasping the seam, holding on to it like a pocket, right at my mid-thigh. And he came over and he did that. And I always know he's there, because he does that. It's familiar. Even if I have shorts on, he'll come up and he'll grab my leg like it's a seam, and I'll know that it's him.
Is he there right now?
Yes. Yeah. But go ahead.
I was going to say, is he grabbing you right now? I know he's here. I can feel him.
Oh no, he is here. He is. He's been grabbing me for a little while. He's actually, he's definitely here. But there's a whole bunch of them here too. They're very curious.
Yeah.
So we left, and we ended up going back again, and went in again, did the same thing. This time I had some friends that are a paranormal group that came up that actually saw him also, and verified that he was there. And so I've had other people that have verified too. But the thing is that as he's grown to trust us, and as we have been consistent and kept our word with the treats and things that we were going to give him, we've built up a rapport. And I would actually protect his rock to the point that I would give my life for it if I had to, because it's that important to him. He told us that the rock was an original piece of Mother Earth when she was created, of which there were only 5. And he has brought all 5 to that property. He said that the rock tells him stories of ancient times long ago. And he loves stories, absolutely loves stories. And it would play music, and it had other powers that he couldn't disclose to us at this time. And he has literally set up the yard with triangles all over that are portals that have a silver line, gold line, and a blue line, sparkling line that connect each other. And when you go out in the evening, you can see those portals, those lines, and it looks like a quilt. But instead of squares, it's triangles. And the spirit beings that come through there, the bears and the deers and all of these things that have crossed over that fill the yard, is absolutely amazing. And of course, a lot of the other things too, of the other elementals and things, which they kind of stood back at first. He had to invite them. He has a portal in the backyard that he exits through and goes to Ireland and around Europe, and comes back and forth, because that's really where he originated, from that area. And somehow he ended up taking care of the whole area of not only where my yard is, but for blocks. He's kind of in charge of that. So we since then have built a rapport with him. I asked him, I said, what can I call you? I said, my name's Lori. This is Austin. And of course, giving your name when you're an elemental or fae means that someone has power over you, kind of like Rumpelstiltskin. So when he said his name, he was reluctant. It was like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, there's no way that I'm going to be able to pronounce that, let alone remember it. So how about if we give you a nickname? And he looked kind of funny and cocked his head. And I said, well, what about Ed or Bob? And his eyes lit up with Bob. And I said, okay, Bob it is. So it's been Bob is Bob. And he's actually, the funny thing is too, is one of the gentlemen that did the remote viewing was in Pennsylvania at the Paracon there, where I also went. And Bob rode with me in the car. Bob was at that event with me, and I kept having people walking up to me saying, there's a little boy spirit following you around, because there were a lot of very psychic, intuitive people there. And I'm like, yeah, is it an ugly little boy? But he's just precious. I mean, he's precious. But so they were mistaking him because he was so short, following me around. But there was one point that I was breaking down my table, and he was sitting in the chair behind the table, again, sitting in the chair with his little feet going back like windshield wipers, because he's short, so his legs don't dangle over and his feet come up.
And he wasn't angry at this point.
No, he was watching people.
Right.
He was watching people, just thrilled to watch the humans. And a friend of mine who was the remote viewer, his name is Brian Bowden, a lot of people do know him, walked up and he said, there's Bob. He pointed right at the chair. Sure enough, he was sitting there. I said, yes, it is. And he says, and his feet are moving like my little kids, my daughters used to do when they were in the car seat. And he's got a shit-eating grin on his face. And he's watching. He says, hi, Bob. So since then, I have been approached by the Mother Queen, who is the lady in the log, to write books on the Fae and elemental realms. And I told her when I was approached on this, I'm like, listen, I don't know enough about you to even be able to write a book. And not only that, this world's not ready for that. I mean, if I talk about you, people are going to want to own you like a pet. They're going to put expectations and demands on you like a genie in a bottle, because you're so special. And I said, are you sure that you want me to write these books? And she's like, yes, I want you to write 3 books. I'm working on the second one. I said, I don't know. Humans just, I don't know. And she says, yes, it's time. She said, with this shift, with this timeline splitting and the elevation into the fifth dimension of the first. She says people are going to be able to start to see us in the
Oh,
fifth dimension,
chills.
and they're
Yep.
not going to be of the mindset of the third dimension. So yes, but it is time to create the bridge between the humans and the Fae again and make them aware that we're here. Some very, very beautiful things happened. There was one night in particular that Bob said that some of his friends were coming to visit. I'm like, okay, you know. So Austin and I are sitting in the living room of this house, and I forgot about it because we had worked so hard that day, we were tired. And all of a sudden, Austin says to me, there are two beings that just walked through the front door that are standing next to you, and they're shimmering in gold. And I looked over, and of course, I could see the waffling to the air. So I knew that the energy was there. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Bob said that, that for one thing, that the night fae were coming because it was close to the solstice. It was the summer solstice, and that they were going to be staying for a few days. So I want to stop there just for a second and go back on something that I didn't finish, and then I'll come back to this again.
Okay.
During the time that I was asked to write the books, I had commented to the Mother Queen. I said, look, 3 books, that's a lot of work. I said, and I'm going to need an income. I'm not going to be able to focus on doing any of my other work. And she told me that I would be taken care of. I also told her, I said, listen, I don't know enough about Fae to even write one chapter, let alone a whole book. And she told me that I would receive downloads. And boy, have I received downloads. Things that are so beautiful that they have shared with me, like about bioluminescent beaches and crystalline cities in the water
Oh
and
my
things.
God, I'm getting the
Yeah,
goosebumps. No,
that
it's so real. It really
yeah,
is.
that are literally held up by your mind, the walls of the
Right.
water. You can stick your hand through it, but yet it still makes a wall.
Mm.
I mean, all of these beautiful, beautiful things that she shared with me. But I'm like, okay, I will do this. I am hesitant still because I don't trust humans. But like you said, we are going into a different time.
Right.
And the money better come soon because, I kid you not, the very next day, I went to file my income taxes. And the person filing my taxes told me that they were running behind, that most people were getting their refunds within 2 weeks, but that it could be as much as a month. I got mine in 2 days. It showed up in my checking account in 2 days. No
Fantastic.
joke. Lo and
Wow.
behold, 3 weeks later, I get a knock at my door. It's FedEx. I'm like, really? I'm like, what? Am I being served papers by my ex-husband again? so, so, and it was a check, a significantly large check that came in the mail that was from my mother's estate of something, a lawsuit that she had that I thought had been completed, that it turned out that there was more funds that came in on her lawsuit to be paid out to the family. And
Wow.
talk about money coming to your door. So they have kept their word. They have kept their word about the financial part of it. Literally, it comes out of thin air, people. But they've taken good care of me that way. So it has enabled me to be able to write the books and have shows like this to share with people about the Fae. So going back to the visit where my son saw the 2 spirits coming in through the door, and as soon as I said, "Oh, Bob told me that the night fae were coming to stay through the solstice," and all of a sudden the room just fills with fae, and I mean all of these fae, and they're just like, looking at things, and they're so curious, like little curious children, and that one was sitting up on the back of the couch with their little feet dangling down. I could feel the feet dangling because they were sitting right next to my head on the back of the couch. And all of a sudden, Austin says, "There's one sitting right next to you, right by your shoulder on the back of the couch." And sure enough, there was.
And I love the fact that he's clairvoyant too.
Yes.
That
Yes,
he
he
must have
saw them
inherited
too.
that from you. Yeah, I love it.
Yes. All of my kids have gifts. My youngest daughter doesn't really want to dive into hers yet. It kind of creeps her out a little bit, but all the rest of them are on par with their gifts.
They're embracing it. Good.
But anyway, the night fae actually built mounds in the backyard to stay in, because where they initially come from, they are on a bioluminescent beach that has mounds that they go into. And the funny part is I asked the night fae, I said, well, do you ever like to, come out in the daytime? And they said, no, because it's quieter at night. And during the daytime, the trees are quite the talkers. So, that underground telephone system that the trees
Correct.
have,
Yep.
are very, very busy. And I asked them, I said, well, what exactly is your purpose? And they explained that they help animals that are lost find their way. They help them find water and food. They also help nurse the sick, or even help pets cross over that are ready to cross over, was kind of like their job. So I got to meet them. They were there for 3 days. My son, after a little while, left and went upstairs to go get on his computer and play his video game. And they followed him up there. And he said, Mom, they were sitting on my stack, and one standing on his tippy toes, trying to look at the thing, going, wow. They were like, because they'd never experienced something like that before. And he was having to explain to him, oh, that's a fork. That's what I eat with. This is that, and, telling them different things that they were learning. And they did. They stayed in the house, and now they're around me all of the time. Anyway, but so that turned out to be great. A lot of things, and they're there right now. As a matter of fact, I don't want to forget to talk about some of the stories that Bob has told me about. So remind me of this. But the last time that
Okay.
I went to Louisiana, when I pulled up, my sister has a 2-acre lot that's fenced in, and on the side of the fence of the street, there it was covered on both sides with these beautiful wild purple flowers that had yellow butterflies flitzing in, like 10 of them flitzing in and out of the purple flowers on both sides, like a welcoming, beautiful carpet. When I went to go in onto the property, it's gated. So I opened the gate, and when I stepped inside, there was a cattail, because in addition to the flowers, there was a little bit of a ravine type thing that had cattails growing in it with the little bit of water that was there. They had broken off a cattail and had placed it in the middle of the driveway on the other side of the fence. So when I walked in, there was this cattail also to pick up that was a gift. I literally could, I literally could feel Bob so ecstatic that he was like cartwheeling and just came up and just hugged my legs, my one leg, to say hello. And it was so beautiful, and the flowers and the cattail and the gesture of giving the very best that they had for that. Also, I wanted to mention too, when you mentioned about the crown that you have seen, I do have would it be called an etherical or spiritual crown and necklace that they gave me the night that we were there. And they all came in for the first time when my son saw the two shimmering beings by the front door. They came over and they placed a crown on my head and a chunky necklace that I could feel being placed on my neck. On my son, they put hand guards, something on his hands, on both hands.
Cuff,
yeah,
right?
like cuffs that also extended over the hand. So yes, I was given a crown, and so I feel very, very honored by that. I'm trying very, very hard to live up to that, and I'm sharing their story so that people have the awareness. There are a lot of things that live on this earth paralleling us that people can't see because the frequency is much higher than ours. Bigfoot is real. Oh, he even told me what Bigfoot was. I asked him, I said, what exactly is Bigfoot, skunk ape, Sasquatch, whatever part of the country you come from? It has different names. Florida, it's the skunk ape. And he said that, and then remind me to tell you about Jesus. He said that the Bigfoot is in a category by himself, that he does travel through the portals, through the ley lines, the interdimensions, and galactically he also travels, and that he is a very, very highly elevated, has a high frequency, and that he has the ability to cloak himself. So when someone is trying to come after the Bigfoot and corner him, all of a sudden he disappears, smell and all. And I have smelled one before in Florida, and they smell like ass and eggs. So, being a nurse, I know what ass smells like. So we won't go there. But
I've heard
have you,
that from other people
yeah,
too. Yeah, the same thing. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's in Australia, here, it's
Mhm.
everywhere. Yeah.
They travel through the portals and the dimensions interdimensionally. So do aliens and galactic things like that. Um, but they are by themselves, and they are very special beings as well, and they can be very gentle beings, and again they have to defend themselves against humans, and they're humans having fear, so they go after them and attack them and try to shoot them, but they're actually very loving beings. um, he also told me, what was the thing that I mentioned that I, oh,
About
Jesus,
Jesus.
yes. I asked him when I was talking to him about, do they believe in God or whatever? And he mentioned that they believe in source. And I was talking to him about these fairy crosses. And he said that the fairy crosses were tears of the Fae and elementals at the time that Jesus was placed on the cross. And he said, oh, by the way, Jesus wasn't hung by his hands, it went through his wrists. And then he described Jesus. He said that Jesus was, a little taller than me. I'm 5'9", so he was like 5'10" or 11. That he had brownish red colored hair, that he had a Middle Eastern skin color about him, and that his eyes sometimes appeared blue, but sometimes appeared brown, but they were really blue. That they were really blue, but they would vacillate sometimes with that. And that the pictures that we have in books that think Jesus looks like that, he doesn't look like that. He sometimes will show up with the robe and things like that, but his face is different. Very, very different. As a matter of fact, there was a girl that recently had a near-death experience that painted what Jesus looked like, and several people that have had near-death experiences have verified that her portrait of him is dead on what he looks like. One little boy that was like 4 or 5 years old says, yep, that's him. So this is verified. And the description that Bob gave me, I hadn't seen that painting yet, but it was exactly like that. So, and I'll even send you, if I can find that painting, I'll send you
Interesting.
what it looks like.
I'd love to see it.
He
Yeah.
actually looks like that one actor that was in the the show about the circus, or the thing in the, no, then the singing lady. Um, oh gosh, um, I'll think of it.
Carnival. I don't.
No, no, no. It was the one. If I could even think of the song, it'll come to me. I'll
Okay.
continue to talk about it. But he kind of resembles that guy. This guy also was on one of the shows where he had long fingernail things, that he was like a wolf type figure um, on a show.
After 9/11, I don't watch much TV or film. Wolverine is
Yeah,
that's
kind
the
of
only
like a
thing I can
Wolverine.
think of, but I
Actually,
haven't seen that show either, so I don't
yeah,
know.
let me look this up real quick, because
Okay.
he resembles him quite a bit.
So
Um,
is Bob getting the stories from The Rock, or was he actually there witnessing it firsthand?
he was there.
Wow, that's so amazing.
He was there, and as were the whole Fey realm, and they were crying at the time that it happened. And that's why the tears went into the ground, and it made fairy crosses, which are natural stones that are. I have one in my purse that are shaped like rocks, but they actually have a pleat in them. Um, the way that the cross is, and let me just look this up really, really quick, because everybody will know who this actor is.
Okay.
Okay, actor that was Wolverine. Oh, Hugh Jackman. He resembles
Okay.
Hugh Jackman quite a
Okay.
bit. Quite a bit. He resembles him. Only, of course, his hair is different and his skin color is a little bit different. But I mean, to me, he resembles him. But anyway, yeah, those rocks were created by their tears. And he also mentioned too that Mary Magdalene is Jesus's love, regardless of what the Bible say, making her out a whore that she was not. That he was very much in love with her. They did have children, people. He talked about that as well, and that yeah. even interdimensionally, they still have they have contact with that too, because they're of that higher dimension. That of course they can, talk to the other side, talk to spirits on the other side, and things like that.
Right.
So it's just been something so wonderful. I mean, the things that he has told me, and you know what, it really gives me a different respect for nature. People, even the rocks are alive. Everything's alive. So the next
Yeah.
time you go to pound a rock with something, think about it. You might be hurting somebody's grandmother. Oh, that's another thing
It's
too.
all interconnected. It's
It
all interconnected.
we
Right.
are we're all interconnected. All of it is real. Um, Bob had told me, I had asked him about his species, for lack of a better word, they call it something else. And he said that he was what's called a rock un. So rock and un, not rock in, rock un. And he explained that his father was a rock in, and they're all about things to do with the dirt and things that are below the earth's surface. That he takes, and of course, rocks on the top of the surface, they take care of those too. But most of the time, they're like half in and half out of the dirt.
Does his skin resemble that? His
Yes,
appearance? Right.
yes. His skin color is a brownish gray. The rock is the color of his skin, actually. Um, Remind me to tell you about the point that I asked him that I wanted to see him fully in person, and I'll tell you about that too.
Okay.
But what was I saying?
That he's a rock un
Yes,
describing
that he's
him.
a rock,
Mhm.
and he was explaining that his mother was a spirit that was of everything above the ground, the trees, the grass, the flowers, and that normally the two don't get together. So they have he's biracial technically. He's got like he's got like seven brothers, and I don't know how many sisters, and he's the only one that doesn't have a mate. He talks about a rabbit that he had. He had a brown rabbit that passed, and then a white rabbit that passed. And how I know that they grieve is because he loved that white rabbit so much. And when you look at things about Fae and elementals, the rabbit sometimes can symbolize something that's been changed into a rabbit that could have been a loved one. I don't know if that was his case, but he loved the rabbit so much and did everything with it. It was his companion, that when that rabbit passed, he grieved the loss of that rabbit so badly that he said that he wished in that moment that he could go too. So
Mm.
that's how much he grieved and loved this rabbit. What was it that I had asked you to remind me of?
Bob, Jesus, and it was another story, I think,
Yeah,
about
I'm sorry.
that's all right. I wrote Bob and Jesus down. I'm not sure what the third one would be. You were talking about the family, the deer mother, before that, stories from the rock.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that too, I don't. It'll come back to me. Um, so when I go to crystal shows, I will go and I'll get a piece of raw turquoise from Mexico, and I'll get a piece of something from Madagascar and from Peru, bringing them back, hoping that they'll have new stories to tell him because he loves stories. So they are precious beings that are around all of us, and they should be respected. Talk about hugging a tree. Yes. I'm not a tree hugger type, but I will become one because all of those things are part of us. They're all interconnected. Everything is valuable. I wouldn't say cockroaches are. I can't, I don't think I could ever get past that part of it, or mosquitoes, because some of those are parasitic. But, they are the garbage cleanup crew, but mosquitoes are parasitic. They're more of a dark energy. I can't even imagine why they're here.
Well, and now we have the government,
Breeding them.
modifying them, right? They were released in Southern California and Southwest Florida, so yay.
Yeah, aren't they modifying them for in order to inoculate people that don't want to get vaccinated? Isn't that what
That's
their
what it
purpose
seems
is?
like. Yeah, because I'm from San Diego, California, Southern California, and now I'm living in
Mhm.
Southwest Florida. So it's in both of the areas that I've been in. And we never had mosquitoes there. And they're also ankle biters. they are low and they're silent. And so I talked to some of my friends that are back there, and they're like, well, we're being attacked by mosquitoes. We never had mosquitoes before in the city. Up in the
Mhm.
mountains, sure, you're going to have that, but not in the city and definitely not at the beach. And now they're there.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's crazy. Speaking of the beach, the bioluminescent beaches with the beautiful mounds that the night fae go into, they have this very, very cool orb type thing that they have it's like a seed inside of a seed that when they're in their tunnels, they rotate the seed with the little seed inside that spins and it makes light. So they
Mm.
have them as little lanterns inside of their dwelling, and they come back out at day, at nighttime and go back in, at daybreak. So also one of the stories that they did tell me about was the crystalline cities, and I'll just tell you briefly. They said there were three different buildings in the crystalline cities. One was something that manufactured everything that they could possibly need on there. Another one was for meditation. And another one was to communicate with universes and planetary solar systems beyond ours. And they in this manufacturing thing, they were making this round ball thing that they called a toy, and it was for the children, but it was flavored because they don't eat food like we eat food. They don't have the need for it. So the balls, flavored balls, were entertainment for the children so they could experience flavor. So it was considered a toy. So I thought that was kind of interesting too. And some of these things sound really way out there and bizarre because they're not normal things to us, but they're very normal to them. Bob tells me that I'm ugly all the time. So, but he means it, he doesn't mean it in a bad way. It's just that I don't look like, what he's used to.
Right, and
So
we would
yeah.
feel the
Oh,
same about them. I have to say, so how much, so if they don't eat that much, the beignets and the Oreos,
no,
what?
this is the water people that live in the crystalline
Oh, oh,
city
oh,
under the
oh,
ocean.
oh, okay. Got you.
It's in the
Okay.
ocean. Now I remember what it was. I had asked him at one point, I said, look, I've seen the top of your head. I see your feet. I'll see a shoulder stick out or whatever, once in a while, your nose. But I'd really, really like to see you physically. So he'd stand at the bottom of the stairs and have the rainbow energy running across his face,
Mhm.
trying to show me his face. And I couldn't really see it very well, but I knew it was him. So this one particular night, it was during the night that the 3 nights that the night fae were there, staying in the mounds in the backyard. And all of a sudden, I see these fingers go across the back of the couch like a piano because there's a sectional there. And I see these fingers go across. And they were chubby, like sausages. And there were four of them, where there were three main fingers and a thumb. And I knew they were his because they were the color of his rock. And when I looked at him closely, at first I thought that it looked like scales like reptilian. And I'm kind of like, at first, whoa. And then I looked again and realized that they were the roots running through the dirt,
Mm.
similar to the rock. And he has the roots running through the soil because of his mother, and he's got little sprigs of little hanging things that they're not roots. They are something that's growing kind of like moss, but there's just a few of them. So because he's a mix of his mother and father, his skin, the veins almost shaped like scales, but it wasn't scales. His skin is smooth, like ours is. But and the thing about his fingernails is they were very clean and neat. They actually have a rounded area just like ours here, but then they come to a point, and the point only peeks over so slightly so that they can pick at the sand and the rocks and things like that. And I was surprised at how clean they were. So he did show me his hands as he went across the couch in a piano motion of "here's my hands," type thing. But I was surprised that they were chubby like sausages. I expected them to look gnarly and, kind of thing, you know,
Right.
so creepy. But they weren't. And I've had so many wonderful experiences with them. I know that they're around me all of the time. As you have seen me shift change in front of your eyes, we have met in
Correct.
person, and you've
Correct. I
seen my
saw you.
path.
I saw ears develop on you. I saw the crown. I saw the necklace, and I saw the fae around you. I saw that shimmer. that you see, when
Hmm.
they're moving through it. Yeah, no, it's very real. And I've seen the pictures of the Fae that you've taken, and
Hmm.
it is real. So
Yeah,
everybody, it's real. This
yeah,
is some of the stuff that's been hidden from us.
that's true. And fairies don't have wings, people. Well, some of them might, but the ones that I've seen do not have wings. From what I understand, the Victorian period put the wings on them because they self-propulse. And the ones that I have seen, so I'm not saying completely no, but the ones that I have seen do not have wings. One of them I saw that was riding in on a monarch butterfly, where my boyfriend Bill had just recently put seven dust on a vegetable plant that he didn't want the caterpillars eating on, which of course he's learned a more natural way since then. Um, Guided this monarch into an area where there was a flower garden for the monarch to land, and the fairy separated from the monarch butterfly and was colorized just like the monarch butterfly, but it was dangling in the air. It was about the size of a maggot, but beautifully colored, and it could move like a helicopter very quickly, up and down and sideways and forward and back, just like a helicopter. And once the butterfly was situated, it took off. It just left. But they self-propulse. And I thought that that was very interesting too. Undines turn into dragonflies a lot of times. So dragonflies are beings in themselves that are partially fey and elemental, but also host our loved ones' spirits. So a lot of times I'll see a green one and a blue one flitzing along in the yard. And I know that my sister Lisa had green eyes, and my sister Robin, that has also passed, had blue eyes. So I see them flitzing together, and then there'll be a whole bunch of them. So they also do that. So they're all intertwined in that higher dimension that way. So I hope that I am, like I said, the one book, Gnome Place Like Home, is finished. It's in editing. I'm almost a third way through writing the You Don't Know Me, which talks about the crystalline cities and some other things that people are not aware of about them that are just mind blowing things, just mind blowing. You can't imagine these things, because they're not in our world, but they do exist. So, people, get prepared to start seeing little things, maybe even if shorter than a foot, walking around. They illuminate gold. They shimmer. They have that waffling effect to the air. Sometimes they appear rainbowish because of the energy. Sometimes blue. Sometimes silver. Um, you're going to start seeing them more and more as you elevate into the fifth dimension. Granted, if that's what you choose. So they are a fifth dimensional being, and you will see them there, and they are
Right.
precious.
And I think also going into 2026, a lot of people are choosing what timeline to be in.
They
They're
have to.
choosing, right, they're choosing to elevate. And I
Mhm.
think they're going to see it more and more. Like what I'm seeing in my room today while we're doing this interview is really, I'm seeing a lot of blue. I
Mhm.
have blue everywhere, all around me, at the bottom of my laptop as we're filming. And I'm just enjoying the light show, listening to you talk, and it has been wild. But I think that they are ever present, and that
They
waffling,
are.
it's kind of like, to describe it to people that haven't seen it yet, it's kind of like when you have an oil slick that's out in the hot sun and
Mhm.
it kind of rises up and you see that motion. That is that energy, and that's that waffle effect. And then
Right.
you can have that shimmer or something else put on it. Now,
Mhm.
when I saw it, when the last time you and I were together, I saw it in a building. So, no oil slick outside, in a building, and they were all around you. And it was amazing. And at that time, they were all silver. I think I saw one gold, but for the most part, it was silver. And it was awesome. Really
Here, I'm
beautiful.
plugging in my phone. I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
Okay, good. I had to put my plug my phone in because it was getting ready to die. Yes, I've seen them that way as well. And they also are adversely affected by the dark side. So, there are dark magicians and things that terrify them, and they torture them. And a lot of them too have had to sacrifice their families and things like that to darker sources in order for other ones to advance. And they willingly do that because of all of the love in their heart. So a lot of them are being freed from that, and I'm grateful for that. And but yes, definitely. don't doubt yourself because they are real. And it's not like Tinkerbell, but they are definitely real. Like I said, they were even in the Bible in a book that was taken out, and St. Patrick was the one that was all about them. So you can even look that up. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that's good. I think people should double check everything, And I know you've done your research. And again, you are Queen of the Fairies. So it's lovely to have you on this show. You literally have been crowned. I know I saw your ears come up and you're like, I'm like, Lynn, I can see you shapeshift right in front of me. And you're like, oh no. But it was real. I mean, it was phenomenal right in front of my face. I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love
Allison
it.
and I have actually met in person. We met in Florida when I was there in July. So she got to come in, and of course they love to spread, and they love my friends. They become your friends too.
I
So
love
yeah,
them.
and please reach out. If you are interested in learning more about this or seeing about the series, the Omnipresent series that I have, Omnipresent What Happened Next, Omnipresent 111 Becca Drive was just released. Then, of course, it'll go into Omnipresent Gnome Place Like Home and then continue on with that. Colors of Heaven is a beautiful book about, I've been a nurse for 40 some odd years. And 18 of that, 17 to 18 of that was in end of life care. So I've seen hundreds of people pass, and the beauty and the energy and the spirits that come in with that. I've also experienced attachments on people with mental illness, and attachments and arcanian things like that are on people with addiction and that sort of thing. So all of these books, Colors of Heaven is a beautiful book for somebody that has maybe had someone pass or someone that has been recently diagnosed with terminal illness. Everybody's had somebody pass, even your pets, and you will see your pets again, by the way. Death has such a finality to it, but really we don't die. We just shed our meat suits and our spirit goes on until we meet them again. So it's like going on vacation and you
Yeah,
just see them.
I have people on my live show every Tuesday. There's always someone because I do the mediumship also. There's always someone that asks to connect with a loved one or a pet, or the pet will be live, whether it's deceased or live. And what does my pet think of me? But they're definitely there on the other side, and they're just sending so much love.
Yes,
It is wonderful. Yeah.
it
And your
is.
books are on Amazon, right?
They're on Amazon. However, if you want them personally signed, they are on my website, www.lynnmonet, that's LYNNMONET.com. I can sign them and send them to you. There are more books on my website than there is on Amazon. So, you can find some other books that aren't listed on Amazon. Also, that show that I have every Sunday on
Ground Zero.
Ground Zero Plus. It's not the regular Ground Zero, it is Clyde Lewis's channel. You
Okay.
can find me there. I have guests on the interview. I'm going to be having Allison on my show.
Yay.
So coming
That'll
up,
be
and
fun.
definitely can reach out there as well. I've got some other in-person functions that I'm going to be doing. I believe one in Tennessee, one in Alabama. I might be going to the one in Pennsylvania, the Gettysburg Address again in July. I'm looking to, do one in Louisiana as well, in New Orleans coming up next year. Where I'll be in person, and I've got a little one that I'm doing here coming up in June, where I'll be at a festival as well. So
Fantastic. And if I'm having a conference, we're looking at probably the end of February, trying to find a location now, then definitely you're going to be one of the speakers to come. I can't wait. Yeah, just a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information, and just such a great person all the way around. So
thank
really
you. I
excited.
feel the
You're
same way about
welcome.
you. Everybody, she's gifted. Get her reading. She won't regret it. She's amazing.
Thank
So, and she
you.
knows her stuff, and she's very gifted. Plus, now
Thank
she's
you.
got Faye all around her. So,
I do. I love it. They've actually protected me on a number of occasions from being attacked from demonic entities. So I've actually had one actually jump up and literally get in between me and an entity and block that entity from coming at me. So yes, they are absolutely here to protect us, and we should embrace them. And I know not everybody can see them yet, but if you so choose to go up in vibration, the more you do that, the more this beautiful world is going to be revealed to you. You know, it reminds me of, again, I don't watch a lot of film, but I did see this. So someone tells me, hey, you have to see this, I'll go watch it. And I can't remember that film that was done where nature is all interconnected. It's Avatar. Avatar is the
I
name.
love Avatar. I love.
That's what it reminds me of, is it's all of a sudden I feel like it's Avatar where everything is connected. You'll feel the trees, you hear the trees. I'm an avid gardener. I've been gardening ever since I think I could breathe. And once I came into this world, I was introduced to the earth, and I'm Virgo, a Capricorn rising, Gemini moon, but the earth is very heavy in me. I feel so connected to it. And you know, I do believe that everything, the rocks and the grass and the trees, and even the leaf that's falling that has left that tree, everything is interconnected. And the
Mhm.
fact that the elementals are here are just that wonderful protector of the earth.
They
And
are.
I cannot wait for more people to start seeing them. Oh
Mhm.
my God, I'm
Yeah.
so excited.
I wanted to mention something too about cutting down trees. The trees are okay with you cutting them down. They understand. They release that part of their earthly suit very easily, and they know that they're going to come up somewhere else anyway. So they just kind of shift from one to something else. So
Right.
sometimes do I pull a leaf off? Do I cut my tree down? There's this thing, it's too big over my roof. That's okay too. However, try to do it during hibernation times if you're in the winter, so that it's at least sleeping.
Right, and I just saw a fairy go flying up for you. And they're also here. There's an agreement that we are allowed to have firewood,
Yes,
you know, from either a tree that has, passed away on its own from disease or something else, or lightning strike, you know, that has kind of killed that tree, or to actually go and cut it down. So we do have that arrangement too.
yes, it's important to show gratitude with it as well.
Absolutely.
My,
Intention is everything.
I'm going to go ahead and sign off if that's okay. My
Absolutely.
phone is getting ready to die, and I don't want it to cut off too soon. But I want to tell you, thank you so very much for having me on your show. I've had a great time as usual. You and I always get together and we get the giggles. So
Yes.
that is a good thing. And I send love and light to everyone who's watching this show, and definitely book with Allison.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure having you here. And I can't wait to have you on again because I know there's so much more we can get into in a lot of different areas. So we'll definitely be doing that. And again, thank you for being here today. And I will have all of Lynn's information in the description. So if you want to go to her website, listen to her show, Ground Zero Plus, definitely go check it out. Wealth of knowledge, wonderful person. She's been on George Nori, Gaia, all of that. So you're really getting a professional, someone that's been doing this for a very long time. It's just a wonderful source of information. All right, I can talk it up forever. Your phone's going to
Me
die. I'm
too.
going to go.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye. Lots
Bye.
of love. Bye.